And I'm going to go live. Oh, I'm after doing something silly here, Steve. 1 second. Are you still with me, Steve?
Yes, I'm with you.
No, Steve. I think we're live on Facebook. While I wait for your screen to pop up, I'd like to welcome everybody that has that's joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on board, Steve. It's a. Oh, I actually didn't click the live button. Sorry. Now, Steve, while I wait to see you on the live screen from my side, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us in this series of Facebook Lives, where we're as I see it, in service of the greater good of the moment. There we go. I know that I have all that clicked through. Rather than delaying this and rather than going into waiting for lads to come and join us, we'll go straight into it. And if I could invite you just to give us a little bio, a little history of Steve Chandler and the world according to Steve Chandler, would be great, just to give an introduction to who you are to those that would, very few that would be unaware of who you are in this world.
Well, I'm often unaware of who I am, so I can empathize with those who are unaware of who I am. Well, I was born as a very small child. That's how it all began. And I've been through many self-inflicted problems, alcoholism, bankruptcy, that I've tried to glorify in my books and make it look like I've survived difficulties and emerged heroically on the other side, and in hopes of selling these books. But my message has always been, if I can do this, anybody can. And what is this? Well, live a really enjoyable life with financial prosperity, connecting to other people, good friends, beautiful family. It's been a great time, and I've enjoyed my profession that I finally landed in without design or goal. I was never good at setting goals. I just kept ending up places. But I ended up in the world of coaching, life coaching, because my life had been changed by it. I was a marketing director and I was in advertising, and my whole life had collapsed. I had come out of recovery for alcohol and addiction, and I had 4 children. I had full custody of 4 children and was just totally lost and didn't know where to go or what to do or who I was. I wasn't very good at anything. And at that time, I hadn't developed any real profession. And fortunately, out of my desperation and fear and longing to make life work, I stumbled upon some spiritual teachers and ended up with a coach. I didn't know what coaching was, but he was Steve Hardison. Many people have heard of him, a wonderful coach in America. And he helped me, and my whole belief system about who I was and all my fears which came from those beliefs, how frightening life was, and where I didn't fit. Through his skill at coaching, he was able to help me see through all of that and create a whole new life. And it was so powerful that I took a tiny percent of what he was able to do with me, and I began doing it with other people, and it had good results. So I started writing books about that, about what happened with me, what occurred that had life just completely turn around. Because I had always believed people never change. They're kind of locked into a permanent personality. That was my primary belief, that I was my flaws and weaknesses, and he got me to see they were only habits. They were only patterns of repetition. And I had absolute creative freedom to reinvent myself, my so-called self, the person I was playing on the planet. I could reinvent it in any direction I wanted. And that was a revelation. And I've since that time written a number of books about how that occurred for me, with the hope that people reading those would get the idea that if it could happen for him, it could happen for me, to whatever degree. So that's my story. Obviously not very well prepared or rehearsed, but that's my bio.
And it's quite the bio, Steve. As I was saying to you earlier on, when I put up your post yesterday to announce that you were coming on today, I had spoken about the influence of the prosperous coach and how much it impacted me, and how the basis of everything that you do is in loving service of the other person. And I'd love if you would speak to that. I would really appreciate that. And I'm sure many out there will want to hear the same thing, and the philosophy around that, as it were.
Yes, I learned it from my coach. I was open to the possibility that loving service, connecting heart to heart with people, was actually more powerful and effective than self-promotion, than advertising, marketing, branding, creating a persona, and then advertising it and promoting it and making all these claims about what my profession could do for you, that I could set all that aside, throw it away, and connect in a more direct way with people. Go right into the service that my profession would provide if they hired me, to simply allow them to experience what that service would be and allow them to make their own choice on whether to purchase that service or not, as opposed to what most people in my field were doing, which was trying to figure out ways to manipulate and persuade and convince other people that their service or their product was good. And so it simply was more effective, more connective, and it allowed me to sleep better at night and made life so much better. So it became, a lot of people saw it as a revolutionary new system for acquiring clients. And but it had to be real to work. That was the part that confused a lot of people. It has to be real. And one of the things you and I were talking about, Billy, before we went on Facebook, was how now during these times when there's there is a potential for disease going all around the world, people are even though, like you pointed out brilliantly, the social distancing is a misnomer, because people are less, in many ways, less distant. They're more connected. More heart-to-heart connection is occurring right now. People saying, how are you doing? Can I help? Let's get on Skype, or let's call each other. Or people, I was noticing in my neighborhood, when we were going out walking, there are people who used to just walk with their heads down and earbuds in, and I don't want to know you, are waving, how are you doing, how's it going for you, and so we're all, if nothing else occurs, when you look for a silver lining here, and there are many, the realization that we're all in this together. I can be talking to you in Ireland, and we're talking about the same thing. We're all in this together. That realization, if that realization holds for us beyond the passing through, when the virus has done whatever work it's here to do and it passes through, if that holds, we will have advanced a bit as a global community, and even small community, even our neighbors around us that we now have smiled at and said hello, where before we hadn't. We're closer, and that can be some good. You were talking about people working on their yards, beautifying, how this could make Ireland the most beautiful, already beautiful place, but even more beautiful.
When we were talking earlier on, I had said to you that weekend that we were in London, what I found that if I took nothing else away from that particular weekend, I found when we spoke about the circles of influence and about not trying to reach out into the outside world, but be immediate in the service that we have, and being in the loving service of those that are within our lives and within our immediate community, etc. And you spoke about the fearless heart.
Yes.
And what that means. Could you speak to that?
Yes. There's an element to service and connecting with other people. I notice when people start to warm up to the idea of that, what gets in the way is fear of what other people might think of them. If I offer, I have extra toilet paper, can I send it to you? What will people think? And there's a fear of how we're going to be judged or evaluated by other people that gets in the way. And so in a way, true service requires a fearless heart to really connect. I don't care what you think of me, I'm here to serve you. And I notice in our profession, many professions, people who sell things, they have this fear of rejection. Even if what they have to sell would really serve someone else, what they have to offer might be of great service, the fear of what the other person thinks of me if I connect with them stops me from serving. So people who serve really well in the world, who connect and really help other people, have a fearless heart. They have a big heart, but it's fearless. They don't much care what that personality thinks of this personality. They care more about the heart-to-heart connection. Can I really help you? And that's an element of service that gets overlooked. The courageous factor in being willing to reach out to someone close to you, and you talked about circles. One thing that fear of connecting heart to heart causes people to do that's weird and ineffective is they reach out to people they don't know first. They try to advertise, promote, market, put their name out there, become known publicly or on the internet. I want 6,000 followers, preferably people who don't know me too well, but who have bought my story of what I'm good at, as opposed to people closer to us in life. You talked about circles. We were in a room together and we talked about those circles close to us are the greatest opportunity we have to serve people in our neighborhood, community, our colleagues, our friends, and then move out from there, because there's already potential for real heart-to-heart connection. We don't have to become known. In our profession, the person who has been the most successful in any measure of success was my coach, and he never even had a website. He just said, "I'll let other people tell my story. If I serve profoundly enough, I don't need to market or advertise myself or do all this shallow self-promotion, persuasion, and manipulation. I can simply connect." And I think that now what we're seeing, people in all professions, people are simply connecting and saying, "How are you doing right now? What do you need? Do you just need to talk? Let's just talk." So I think that can be a great lesson learned by all of us, how wonderful that is. Am I making any sense, Billy?
You're making, I'm just watching the side of the scroll feed here at the side of the Zoom, and the comments that are coming up. Fabulous, a fearless heart to connecting heart and heart, just beautiful. Annette Deirdre really resonates with me with a fearless heart. Worry about what people will say. Who does she think she is to call herself a coach, etc.? And it clearly resonates.
Yes.
That I suppose that particular fear that you're talking about, I suppose it opens up a huge amount because we've so much skin in the game.
Yes.
To those that are immediate to us.
Yes.
And those that we fear loss of approval or loss of connection or loss of love or a lot in that vein. Could you speak to that?
Yes. Yeah, I think the fear of am I being appreciated, approved of, judged in a good way? In times like these, something inside, some spirit closer to the truth about life prompts us to just set that aside. That feels like nonsense right now. That feels so shallow and irrelevant to really connecting with another human being. And just the question, how are you doing? A woman walking her dog, elderly woman walking her dog, how are you doing? You have everything you need. If I can help you, you know where we are. Now, people are doing that who never spoke that way. Always just way too skeptical and cynical about other human beings. To ever even speak those words or speaking those words or connecting with a family member they never spoke to. My brother reached out and said, "Let's get together with our two sisters and you and me. Let's get on a call together and just talk." Well, I had to check who that was. Oh, that's right, that's my brother. And because we don't do that normally, we're too busy, swept up in getting into the future. And so one thing the beauty of the now is starts to arrive. Like, this is now, this is real. And so many people, I think the people I work with, I know people you work with, they use their minds to try to strain against the now and get into the future. It's got to be a better now than now. It's got, so they're trying to, maybe when I get this and that, I'll be happy. And so this, people are living in the now right now, and it's real.
Yeah, you wrote that great book Right Now.
I was hoping something I would say would prompt the mention of one of my books. Please go ahead. Take your time. Take your time.
Would you speak to that? I mean, it is a wonderful book. To me, when I'm coaching, I find that all the misunderstandings and the popcorn psychology around what it means to be present and be now, which really confuses people.
Yeah,
In truth, it's actually quite a simple concept, but within it is the power of all, as I see it, all types of creativity.
It does confuse people because in most of society, most families, we are taught to try to get into the future, that the future is really where you want to get to somehow. That even when we talk about children, we say, I think he's going to turn out okay. We're not talking about, I think he's wonderful and beautiful as he is. It's, I think he'll turn out all right. Like he's something in the oven, like a muffin, like you keep peeking in there. I think it's going to turn out okay. I think I think this child is not going to embarrass me. I think it's going to reflect well on me, that I think he's going to turn out well. And so that's what I tried to do in that book, is say, hang on, what if we all slowed down to where we are right now and could allow the natural sense of gratitude that was our birthright to get back to it, the gratitude for being here right now.
Steve, can I hit a pause there? On my side, my screen has frozen. Can people still see us, and can they hear us? Oh, it's after unfreeing. Answer. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Maybe you were frozen by the profundity of what I was saying.
Every time, Steve.
Yes, maybe you were spellbound.
Yeah.
Technology will often give little signals. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if Facebook Live, I went into confusion when you said we were going to do this technological thing where we work on Zoom, but somehow it goes on Facebook. I think it's a wonderful thing if it's really working. It may turn out none of this got out there.
It has got out there, because there's a lot of chuckles coming up on the screen. A lot of chuckles coming up on the screen in front of us. And sorry for hitting the pause button, because it's a real important element, the understanding of what it means to be present. That when things slow down, when we understand what the notion of being present, it does open a real strong element of creativity.
Yeah, it does. It does. It allows us to have creativity, intuition, and compassion. That all happens when we're present. That can't happen when we're using another person as a means to an end, as a target of opportunity. But when we're fully present, then great things can happen between two people. And it's counterintuitive. It's not easy. I mean, people, that's why you can write a book about it and people buy it. Well, what do you mean by right now? Because we're taught, and then we teach ourselves. And then there's fear of being present. Well, if I'm just present, I'll fall behind. As if this is one great race to the finish, I'll fall behind. I'm falling behind. I can't afford to take a vacation. I'll fall behind. I can't afford to be present. There are things I need to get to. But people find, if they are my clients and myself over the years, the more present I can be to what's going on right now, who I can serve right now, the more beautiful and effective people's work becomes. And but it requires some experimentation. You can read it in a book and say, oh, what a beautiful idea. I see that conceptually, intellectually, I see how that would be. But then it requires, I'm gonna do a little of that. I'm gonna relax into the present moment more and more. And then through that practice, it becomes self-rewarding. Wow, this was a better day than I've had in a long time. I wonder why that is. Well, I was present. I'm present to my talk with Billy. I love your accent coming from Ireland, reminding me of Tommy Makem and the Clancy Brothers, all the wonderful albums I had when I was younger. And so this is great. Where would you rather be?
Well, there is no moment that that is found in the moment that we're aware of, that we're present in.
Yeah, right.
Let's keep the book club going, Steve, now that you've brought it up. And perhaps one of the big sticky wickets for most people when it comes to business or service is money.
Yes.
The great money question. And you wrote a great book around the psychology of that, as it were, in Wealth Warrior.
Yes.
Would you speak to that? Could you?
Yeah, I was, I had written a book that sold really well called Time Warrior. And it was about not actually managing time, because time seems to be hard to manage, but managing priorities and managing my attention. Where am I going to put my time and attention? That's the real time management. And then the word warrior was just cool. People like phrases like "I'm a warrior," and women I meet now, they want to be a badass. She's a badass woman. I'm a badass woman. So there's something that calls to people. And it's really the focus of energy and effectiveness. And then I thought, well, what do I follow that book up with? Because what are my clients having problems with? What did I have problems with? I had more problems with money than anyone I ever knew. I mean, it was a terrible belief system in me. And so I thought, well, let's just write about what that was like and how people get helped in that arena, how they can see money as an exchange of energy, and see it less as a sign of greed or a sign of status or a sign of worthiness, but just an exchange, like it was meant to be. Money was invented to replace the clumsiness of me having to bring a basket of tomatoes for you to give me a sack of flour, or for you to give me a tool. There's all this exchange. Let's just use money and it'll go faster, be more effective. But then it became a symbol of power and status and all of that. And people got very frightened and confused. And then our parents, we would take on the fear of our parents around money. And so it became a much bigger issue than it needed to be. So I wrote that book. I'm glad you liked it. And again, it was from the approach of, if I can do this, anyone can. Average person. I want to be an average person having an average day. That's what all of us really, really want. But we have been told, no, you have to be amazing. You have to be extraordinary. You have to be incredible. You have to be separate. You have to be different, separate from the group. And then that creates a sense of separation, competition, separation. Not necessary. Just serve and you'll have money.
It tends to pull in the opposite direction to service, to fall into competition, to fall into need, in the neediness of it. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know, there's so much thought around like what money is and what money can do and what money can't do, and like you say, what it brings in status and stuff like that. But people invest so much of their well-being and so much of who they think they are in the accumulation of the wealth itself.
You're right.
And the pull away is that it either, as I see it, you drag your way through life accumulating money, or it becomes part of the exchange of energy for doing something that we love when we serve deeply, when we work with other people and serve them deeply and get in return the energy of money back.
Now, were you taught that by your parents?
No.
Yeah, and it's not our parents' fault because they weren't taught that by their parents either. So yeah, but that's a beautiful insight you have to money, and I know you're able to help your clients see that a little bit at a time, incrementally. It doesn't happen all at once. But yeah, absolutely.
Steve, I'm aware that we have reached 30 minutes by my clock here.
Time flies.
Doesn't it?
When I'm talking to someone like you, time flies.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I
And
find
you know, Billy, thank you for your service and your fearless heart to serve. Because like you told me, you don't have a big presence on the internet. You don't do all kinds of things like this. Talks with Billy live today. You don't do a lot of that. So you kind of fumbled your way into this out of a fearless heart. What might serve people, and who knows? Just talking can serve. The greatest service of all, the greatest question we can ask is, how are you doing and how can I help? And so I admire you and thank you very much for what you've done to bring various people on and talk to them and let other people listen in. That's great. Thank you for doing that.
My pleasure, Steve. And I think on that particular description of finishing up, the greatest thing that we can do is be of service to another human being. To everybody that's here, you'll find Steve on stevechandler.com. You can connect with him there. For myself, thank you very much for joining us. I have another one coming up tomorrow. I'll put up the details later on. In the meantime, I love you. Thank you all for joining me. And as soon as I get a chance, I'll answer all the messages and the post that came up. Steve, I'll switch off live and I'll connect with you on the other side. Thank you very much for joining us, Steve. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you.
There we go. Steve, thank you so